His name's Aaron, and he's very pleased to meet you. He's heard a lot of nice things.
His name's Tommy, and he doesn't even speak Mandarin, so don't try it.
And this is the Super Pod Saga.
Yeah.
Yay. I really like our music kick in. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, that was a good idea. I can't believe we didn't think of that earlier.
Right? Gosh, me and my stupid Tetris music.
It's cool, though.
If you're a first-time listener and you don't know what I'm talking about, the Super Pod Saga is the show you're listening to. It's a podcast where Aaron and I talk about a different video game topic every week, and we're going to talk about every topic until there's none left to talk about.
So there's just a global shortage of topics, and then at which point we'll stop. We'll give the world a break.
Yeah, and then we'll come back with the sequel. Today we got a special episode, though. We're not talking about our usual topics. It's going to be our top games of 2022.
Ooh, it's been a pretty good year.
Yeah, if we want to talk about games as a whole for the year, like for the first 6 months, I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to have 10 games because there was like nothing that I had played or liked. There's one game that consumed me that we'll talk about, but like I was really concerned that I wasn't going to get 10 games. And then the second half just left with a bang, and I got tons of good games.
That's crazy. That's pretty much the exact opposite of me. Like the first 6 months, I had just tons of shit.
And now no shit. Zero shit.
No shits at all. I'm still kind of slogging away through a few games, but no, we'll get to that here in a little bit.
Yeah, we will. Where can people find us on the social medias, Aaron?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say our primary one is Twitter for sure, at SuperPodSaga. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, pretty much even Tumblr. All of those, just SuperPod Saga. You'll find us for sure if you just search for that.
Yeah, there's no one else. I want to talk about the rules for our top games of 2022 because we do it a little differently. I feel like we are not coming up with a consensus top 10 list because Aaron and I play vastly different games. So he and I have different lists of the top 10 games we played this year. And another big thing for us is they don't have to be games that came out in 2022. They are just games that you played in this past year. Because yeah, go on.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you.
I was gonna say which is good for me because there was maybe there's one that was really really close that was released like really late last year, and then there was a few that were pretty darn old that I just had to put on this list anyway.
Yeah, because you and I are not. This isn't our job. Playing video games isn't our job. We don't have all the time in the world to play all of the games. Like my big example that I always go to is Red Dead Redemption 2. I didn't get to play it until like 5 years after it came out last year. So that was like my game of the year. It was the best thing I played last year, but under traditional rules, I wouldn't get to talk about it, which isn't fair. So yeah, don't get upset at us for our rules. They make sense to us.
That's true. Yep. This is our podcast. If you have a problem, email us or something.
Yeah, please email us.
Email our support team.
Our support team. I'm really excited for this. Like, the top 10 games was kind of like my inspiration for wanting to do a podcast with you. I know we didn't talk about doing a podcast until this past summer, but when we were just talking about our top 10 games of 2021, our top 10s were 100% different. We didn't have a single game, and I was like, man, we have such different experiences in games.
I kind of want to look for that in the messenger and see what those even were. I know for sure one of mine was Bravely Default, but I forgot what the hell the other ones were.
I remember Red Dead, and that was it.
Here we go. That's my Red Dead.
It's my Red Dead. So let's see. Should we get into it? Should we start?
Yeah, let's do. Unless you wanted to do any like, I forgot about the Twitter comments, but honestly, we can just say that.
I'm not going to risk
episode.
Looking on my computer right now.
That's fine. We can jump into the pit.
Okay, I've got a Lugia coin. On one side is Lugia, and the other is Pokemon. This will decide who starts. So, do you want to call Lugia or Pokemon?
Oh, it's your coin. You can be Lugia.
Okay, flipping. It is Pokemon. Aaron, you go first.
All right. The very first one is one that actually came out like at the beginning of this year. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel.
Oh, is that the mobile one or the?
It's all of them.
Okay.
Because
yes,
it's
that's
on.
Right. That's right. Sorry.
Yeah, it's on mobile consoles, all that junk. But yeah, it was weird. Is it's like the best Yu-Gi-Oh game I've played, but it's also kind of one of my least favorites in a way. Because I mean, we'll start with what's good. So it stands out from a lot of other Yu-Gi-Oh games because it's always being updated and has a lot of the newest
Meta.
archetypes and yeah, basically, it's keeping up with the. It's just barely like a couple steps behind like the meta of the actual physical card game, but
Oh, interesting.
it's pretty up to date still, and they're always updating the ban list as well too, according to what people say. Like when the game first came out, it was I don't know why they do this, but the ban list for the actual physical card game and then the online card game is totally different.
Hmm.
I don't, maybe it's just because in the online card game you can get whatever cards without I don't know,
Oh,
but
that's a good point.
there were a lot of cards that weren't banned that should have been because they're just absolutely broken. But anyway, what else is good? It's super. Everybody's playing it, so it's super easy to find matches online, unlike the
Everyone.
other
It
Yu-Gi-Oh
was
games.
it was a huge hit when it first came out.
And it was free. You didn't have to pay fucking $40 for it like the
Yeah.
other Yu-Gi-Oh games. But then we get to what's bad, and that's like,
This is
or no,
why
no, no,
it's
no, no,
so far that down your list.
no, wait, no, I forgot to add. So another good part is the
Uh-huh.
solo mode there's different what's called gates with different archetypes that you'll play against, like the Ghost Trick, Light Sworn, and a bunch of other ones. I'm sure you know all about those, Tommy.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
love the light sworn.
but yeah, and there's as you go through the different paths in that gate, there's different little they'll mix up the deck a little bit, add different like play styles to it, and it'll get kind of challenging toward the end, but that's pretty cool. But yeah, then we get to what I hate about it, which is like I feel like I used to be good at Yu-Gi-Oh,
Oh
but now
no.
the game is just so different from when I last played it because you know traps are slow and obsolete now. There's a lot of what are called floodgates, which is people can basically just shut down your deck with like the play of one card, and it sucks sometimes. It really sucks to play
Oh
online, but
no. The youth has caught up with you. I'm
the
blaming the
youths,
youth.
I know, god damn it, 31-year-old Aaron, I can't
He's
do
just
it, man.
too slow at putting the cards out.
And I guess it's also partly my fault too because I like to use archetypes that aren't as popular,
Mm.
like Fossil Fusion and Dark Lords, and those get bricked really, really easy. Which audience, if you don't know, bricked means your starting hand basically doesn't go anywhere. It's stuck there like a brick. But yeah, I use archetypes that don't have a lot of support, and I get bricked a lot, or I just get screwed over, and it sucks. But it's mostly my problem, I guess, if
Yeah,
I
I mean,
used the
there
popular
are
stuff.
decks that are way more fun to pilot than others. I do that in other card games too, where I mean I know it's not the best most win rate, but it's still more fun to play.
Yeah, no, I don't want to play the same exact deck as like I don't want to play the same deck using that deck. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But because then it's just like oh well, yay duel. But no, it's a pretty cool game. Like
it's definitely
I'll
the
get there
best
eventually.
Yu-Gi-Oh game in. Would you say ever?
I would say ever yeah because
You heard it
I like
here.
that they're doing it as like what you call live service kind of
Hmm.
where it's yeah kind of yeah because they're always updating it and stuff which is awesome. Before they would just release a game and that's it, no new updates. You'd be stuck in the Stone Age.
In the all the cards made of stone.
They're
That's
all
good.
made of really sharpened bamboo.
Excellent. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. That's Aaron's number 10. Okay, my number 10 pick is Wordle.
Word
Everyone applaud. Wordle.
yeah.
I don't have a lot to say about Wordle. I mean, I'm sure everyone knows what it is. It's the it's the website technically where you you have to guess the 5 letter word and it's different every day. You only get one a day. And then you share it with your friends and you're like, "Oh, you got in 3 guesses? It took me 4." And they're like, "Yeah, I got lucky with the E on the first guess." And you just do that every day for the rest of your life. And it's it's a very simple game, but honestly for me, I loved Wordle because it was a conversation starter with all my friends. Like I live in a different state than I grew up in, than I went to college, friend. All my friends don't live here. So I only communicate with them through my phone, and it was just really nice to have something to send them every day just to get a conversation started. I talked to my friends more often than I ever did, and it's because of Wordle. So thank you, Wordle.
Yes, thanks, Wordle. Hey, everybody, this episode's sponsored by Wordle. Thanks, Wordle.
Sponsored by New York Times, Wordle.
Yes, there we go.
Um,
The
oh,
Wordle's Wordle.
I have a good feeling there is one game on our list that are the same. So like
Yep.
we when we get to that point, I think like we should just have one person say their thing, and then when the other person brings it, then they can say their thing. So everyone gets their. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I know
I don't.
exactly what game you're talking about.
I know we both know. I wish I had more to say about Wordle, but I don't. So we can go to your next one. I'll have more to say about other games for sure.
No, they need to make an actual mascot for Wordle. It's just a Squirtle, and he's got like a little
Oh my
t-shirt,
gosh, it's perfect.
white t-shirt with a W, and he's the Wordle Squirtle.
Yes. Oh, that's perfect. New York Times can afford it. Did you know that the New York Times, because they own it now, they recently hired a Wordle editor, a person whose only job is to hand pick the word every day.
What the fuck? That's like, what? I mean, that's kind of cool. I would just pick like a random like obscure like video game
Butts
word
every
or
day.
something. Yeah, Bart with a PHART.
Okay, that's Wordle. You can go to your next one.
The next one I have is Chrono Cross: The Radical Dreamers Edition, the whole remaster thingy.
Yeah, that came out this year, right?
Yeah, it was April, I'm pretty sure. Like it's Chrono Cross. They remastered it. Like it looks pretty. It looks a little bit crisper. It plays well, but I mean, it's for some reason the frame rate in combat always dips really, really low. So as you're attacking, your dudes are just going so
Mm.
slow, and it's kind of sucks. They couldn't have fixed that just a little bit, but other than that, yeah, I mean, it's basically just Chrono Cross, but it looks prettier. They didn't really add a whole lot else besides the whole Radical Dreamers thing that I haven't played yet, because God, it's a whole not really a visual novel, but like a text adventure kind of thing. But that's Chrono Cross, all right. It's great though. It's
had you played Chrono Cross before?
yeah, I played a little bit of
Okay.
it before.
Well, I'm glad because I had never even seen what Chrono Cross looked like until this year when it came out, and I read reviews and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, was not expecting that.
Yeah, man, it's pretty fun.
Good old Chrono Cross.
Good old Chrono Cross.
My number 9 pick is a game called The Open League. I'm
I've
sure
never heard of
anyone
that.
listening has never heard of it because it is extremely niche, extremely low population. So The Open League
Huh.
is a simulated soccer league or football league for those who practice.
Practice.
It's technically available on Steam, which surprised me because it's internet browser based. Like I just go to the website every day, and you pick a server, and on the server is 30 teams that are each run by 30 real people, and you find a team that's available and you take over them. And the people's teams play each other every day. Seasons are like 2.5 weeks long, and you make roster moves, you make trades with people, you sign players. There's a youth camp. It's it. I've been obsessed with it over the last few months with another friend that got me into it. He started at the same time, and Blaseball for me is super fun. But one thing that frustrated me was my fellow team followers making stupid decisions with players that they would go after, and so.
Oh, yeah.
The open league is nice because I'm in control of the team, so I get to decide who I sign, who I trade for, what strategy I put in it. It's really, really cool. Like it's surprisingly in depth and feels really good to make the trades and stuff. The games happen on Discord though, not on the website. So you have to go into the Discord channel, and it's like Blaseball, where you just get little text updates about what's happening. And the games actually happen in real time, so you are sitting there for the whole 90 minutes watching text updates for your soccer game and seeing what your players do. And
90 minutes.
yeah, technically it's more than that because they have a halftime, and it is actually a 15-minute break.
Oh my god. Do they still have Shakira or whatever doing the halftime show?
No, it just says halftime is now. Here are the scores. Like it's insanely in depth. Like you have an assistant who is an AI. It's a bot in Discord, but you can be like, "Hey, I want to do a press release," and he's like, "Okay, cool. What do you want to say, or what do you want to title it?" And you tell him, and he's like, "Okay, what do you want me to say?" And then you type it out. And he's like, "Okay, I'll send it out to the league," and he does. Or you could, when you release a player, he'll be like, "Just had the talk with Chimbley Rufflin. It's always tough letting people go."
Gee, thanks, Mort.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just really, it's for a sports management simulation. It's really, really fun. I don't know a lot about soccer. Like, I don't know what the positions are, but it's still fun to do and fun to trade with people. And I could see me playing this for a long time.
That is really cool. Yeah, just that's cool that so you only do it's only you that makes decisions for your team.
Yes.
It's not like baseball where it's a whole community over
Nope.
one team.
One person, one team.
That's cool.
And there's 3 leagues of 10 teams, and so like whoever finishes the top of the third league, the top 3 teams get to advance up to the next league. So you're always trying to climb the ladder to become the top.
Hell yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
cool.
really cool.
Speaking of balls,
Yeah.
we're going on to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. That I forget when the hell that
Ooh.
released. Yeah, and that one was really cool because it feels like the next like natural step for Borderlands because Borderlands everything after 2 was kind of just bland.
Hmm.
Like the pre-sequel, Borderlands 3, they were both really all right, but Tiny Tina's Wonderlands was cool because first off, it's all medieval because it's supposed to be like D&D and everything like that. But they added just a bunch. They kind of changed the way the game plays just a little bit though. So I think in the other games you had your guns, your class skill. Oh yeah, instead of grenades, you have what are called spells,
Mm.
and they're actually like way more useful than the grenades were in the first few games because like the spells have different wonky abilities. Like it'll be, of course you throw fireball, you throw chain lightning, but then there's all sorts of other shit. Like you throw like this flaming dragon bullshit thing, and then you can multi-class, which is really really sweet. So like you can start off. I started off as I think it was called the Spell Slinger. The Spell Slinger can use 2 spells. I forget what the trade-off was, but yeah, it's just a death machine basically. And then I multi-classed into this other one called the Spore Warden that has this little mushroom pet, and that's
Oh,
really really
cool.
sweet. And all the classes are just actually really cool, and because I forget what any of them were in the third game because it was so forgettable. Yeah, the classes actually felt really sweet and really unique, like really different for the time. And the DLC has been really underwhelming. Definitely not as
Oh.
cool as it was in the second game, but the actual like post game content, like after you beat the game, like the baked in post game content is actually pretty cool. But that's Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, everybody. It's pretty
Cool.
good.
Cool. Their creativity is like second to none when they hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, they do. It's I mean, a lot of people agreed too that it was like the next logical step for Borderlands, which is really really cool. Like instead of just copy and pasting the same thing with like barely different classes, they just changed it all up. They kind of tweaked it a little bit.
Especially because like Borderlands 1 everyone loved, Borderlands 2 everyone loved, but then it kind of just was samey, I feel like. So
Yeah,
good on them for like switching it up and not just quitting like other franchises have done.
yeah, yeah, for real. Like Assassin's Creed, where they took a little hiatus. They were like, no, we're gonna wait like 3 years max.
Speaking of quitting, my number 7 pick is Elden Ring.
Ooh, oh, that's perfect.
It made the list, but I there was a long time where I wasn't sure. Um, but looking back
It's
on
worth
it,
it for the segue.
I think yeah, worth it for the segue. I only played 40 hours of Elden Ring, and I had had enough.
What do you mean only? That's still a pretty good amount.
Man, I barely made it anywhere though. Like I had only just gotten out of the first area to the second area in 40 hours. There is a lot I loved about Elden Ring. The exploration of that first area is so great. Just wandering around, finding caves, like it. I've never. This was my first Souls-like game. This is my first Soulsborne, whatever you want to call it. So like just making incremental process, just like starting at a campfire and going a direction and dying and being like, okay, I'm gonna do better next time. And you get past those things, and you die at the next point, and you're like, okay, I know what to do now. Just it's a slog, but you feel so accomplished when you actually do it. There's a peninsula south of the starting area that's kind of closed off. It's its own little thing. I had an absolute blast doing everything on that peninsula. Like, I explored every corner. There was a castle. There was a story to the whole thing, and
That's cool.
it was super fun, and I had a great time. And then I left that peninsula and went north to like this really giant boggy area that was like a gross swamp with gross monsters, and it just wasn't fun anymore. And I was like,
Gross.
I feel accomplished already. Like, the peninsula was great. That was like a full game in and of itself. And so just seeing how much more I had to do was really difficult. And I just did not feel properly rewarded for my exploration. At the end of every cave, at the end of every boss is like a weapon or seal or armor piece that I either wasn't powerful enough to use, or I wasn't built with my skills right, or I just didn't know how it worked. It just 95% of the stuff I found I couldn't use, and it just didn't feel good. I I really, like, it just felt like I was using the same weapons all the time. And like, I kept seeing people talking about how you can experiment with builds and it's so fun, and I feel like it takes so long to get there. But that's negatives. There's a lot of good things about Elden Ring. It's gorgeous. I really love the combat, which was a surprise to me because I don't like difficult games, but I really came to enjoy the combat, and it did just enough to make a huge impact on me. I might go back to it someday. I don't know, but seventh best game of the year. No,
Nice.
eighth best game of the year. I
Oh, there you
can't
go.
count.
Yeah. Speaking of rolling, Cult of the Lamb, people.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's my next one.
I really wanted to get around to that, but didn't.
Yeah, it was. There's I mean, I guess it's not like the most perfect game. There's a couple things that I kind of don't like about it, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, of course we'll start with the good. I could spend all day on the cult management bullshit. I spend more time on that than I have like on the combat or like any other part of it. I could just indoctrinate new followers and feed them bowls of poop, make them mine things, do all this other, just treat them like a dickhead basically, and all this stuff is just it's so great. And then you just build more and more buildings, you unlock more shit to do, and it's just so great. But then we'll get to the negatives where the combat and just moving your character around in combat just feels super slippery.
Ooh.
I think that's the best way to explain it because you'll be attacking and your character will kind of like move with it, but you also kind of
Mm.
bounce all over the place, kind of. I can't explain it without seeing it, but that always kind of drove me nuts because I would be trying to hack away at a boss, but I'd be kind of like bouncing away from it a little bit, and then I'd end up getting in the way of its attack. I don't know. It's maybe I just suck butt at the game, but overall, yeah, it's good. It's a sweet little roguelike. I love roguelikes. They're great, and the cult management part is worth it. But I wish that the combat wasn't so slippery, and that's me.
Do you think it could exist as just a cult manager, or is the combat like totally required? Like, do you think they
I
could make an alternate version by changing some things up?
I bet they could do just the combat and like the adventure stuff. That's really only needed for. Honestly, I don't think you really even need to. Well, I guess you have to do it to go out and get most of your resources and new followers. But that's pretty much it. Like you don't really need to go out and do the combat or the story or anything like that. The story's cool, by the way, but you don't really even need to go out there and do it.
Speaking of games that you liked things about, but also didn't like things about. my my number 7 pick is the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe Edition.
I saw that coming.
It's
Yes.
it's see, I knew that like you'd expect it to be in my top 10, but okay, I waited 9 years for this game because the Stanley Parable, the original one, was one of my favorite games ever made. It's in my top 10 all time. And then like 3 years later they were like, "We're making another one." Or we're making a no, they were like, "We're going to make a special edition with extra stuff." And I was like, "Cool." And then it didn't come out for like another 4 or 5 years. It just took forever. And then I played it and I really enjoyed it. It's hilarious. There are endless good moments, like when Stanley yells into the bucket, "No!" Or the infinite
bucket.
hole where you fall down the infinite hole, but it's not infinite and it just gets less and less infinite, and then you kind of go insane as you're standing in it. Um, and just the mechanic of how they, because the Stanley Parable has tons of different endings that you can experience, and then in the Ultra Deluxe edition, whenever you start the game and grab the bucket that's on a pedestal, it then from that point on, when you go to those old endings, there'll be new endings. So it's super easy to
Ooh.
switch between experiencing the old stuff and the new stuff. Best bucket mechanic of the year by far. Um,
That absolutely is.
but after I marathoned through it and saw everything that I could see, I kind of just had this feeling of, all right, that's the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. It wasn't it wasn't like this is super amazing, incredible. I was like, that was more Stanley Parable, which is what I wanted, and that's what I got.
I
But
like how they went the route of making it the Ultra Deluxe
yeah,
instead of just being like Stanley Parable Plus or something.
it was originally they were like, we're gonna bring it to consoles, the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and then by the time they actually got around to it, they were like, and Series X and PlayStation 5 and Switch.
Jesus Christ.
Because it was originally just a PC game, and they were like, we're gonna bring it to console. It took them 6 years.
Was it worth it though?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm very happy we got more Stanley Parable. There's like so many good moments. Like you go to the museum and they have like the bucket on display, but you can grab the bucket at the beginning of the game. And so if you bring them together, the narrator's like, "Huh, Stanley, why are there two buckets? Don't let them near each other. Don't." And if you go, they explode and then you don't have any buckets.
Then how do you play the game without the bucket?
Then you just go and then you experience one of the older endings.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. What do you put your fish and your bait and tackle in?
You don't have any of that. That doesn't exist.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
man,
That's right.
just sorry, just another. I feel like I'm not giving enough credit. One of the best parts of the game is when the narrator takes you into the memory zone where you reminisce about the first Stanley Parable, and he's like, "Don't you remember the broom closet? Wasn't that great?" And then you find a back area, and it's all dark and scary and stuff, and he opens a door, and it's like negative Steam reviews, and he's reading them, and he's like, "The narrator wasn't funny. Why would they say that?" And you just go to read all these reviews, and he gets upset, and so he changes what the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe is, and that's how it gets started. It's really clever, really funny, but it is what it is.
That is really cool though. Speaking of unfunny narrators, Omori was my next one.
Is that the black and white one?
It's actually not black and white. It's in full color, my guy.
Excellent, good.
But no, so yeah, this originally released for PC in 2020, but yeah, we got it for consoles and everything else just this year, and it was worth the wait for sure. It's basically it's just your typical turn-based RPG, but it's got some little tweaks to it, and the story. Since I've known about the game, I knew that it was dark and like spooky kind of, but I never really understood because I had stayed away from all sorts of spoilers and shit just so I could experience the game blind. It was worth it to experience the story out because it was kind of sad and kind of spooky a little bit, but basically it's just I think I told you all about it before. It's basically
Hmm.
just like it's a group of friends, but it kind of takes place in two separate, we'll say, planes. It takes place in the main character's dream world, and then it takes place in real life, and you kind of switch between the two. So obviously, the dream world is when Sonny goes to sleep, which Sonny is Omori. His I forget why his name is Omori in the dream world. The art style is just really sweet though. Everything's hand drawn, and when you face I guess all the enemies look just fucking awesome, just balling. But then when you fight some of the bosses, they like fill the fucking screen
Oh, that's
basically.
the
They're
best.
huge. And then there's a lot of multi-stage bosses that'll kind of change throughout the battle, and of course they'll fill the screen even more, and it's just insane. And they'll have little speech bubbles where they'll kind of like talk during the battle, which I guess other RPGs have already done that, but because the game uses this like emotions system where they can be angry, sad, and happy, or neutral, but depending on what emotion they are, like what they say, of course, will be different.
Oh,
And
that's neat.
this is just really cool. Which, yeah, I think was it happy makes it so they're faster and they have a higher crit rate. Angry is
Oh,
less defense, more attack. Sad is less attack and more defense. The new version that they brought to consoles and stuff came with a new ending, which was actually super clever, and it's just a really awesome game. It's on Game Pass, everybody. If you have Game Pass listeners, play Omori. It's worth it.
you can play it for free for $15 a
Yeah,
month.
it's awesome. $15 a month, yeah.
um, speaking of games that aren't in black and white and are in color, my number 6 pick is Destiny 2: The Witch Queen. Specifically, um, Destiny 2 was my most played game this year, by far. There was a solid 3 or 4 months where it was the only thing I played. That was the early part of the year for me, where there was nothing coming out that interested me. So
Yeah.
I just it happens every couple of years. I was just like, I should play Destiny, and then my life has changed for the next 3 or 4 months. But the Witch Queen is the most recent expansion that I paid money for. Why did I pay money for it? Did I really just pay money without knowing if it was good or not? I don't know. But it's I was surprised. I played the original Destiny and I played the original Destiny 2, and I bought the first expansion for Destiny 2, and that expansion was so bad that it made me stop playing Destiny 2.
Ooh.
It had a very tiny location on Mars, and it was separate from the Destiny 1. No, it was on Mercury. My apologies. It was on Mercury, and you couldn't use your Sparrow, your little riding scooter thing, so you had to run across the whole thing. And
Ew.
there just wasn't. Their whole thing was like, we've got a randomly generated areas for you to go through, so you have unlimited content, but it was like just the same set pieces, the same stages, just mixed differently. And everyone was like, we didn't want this, no one wants this. So in comparison, the Witch Queen is unbelievably massive. I could not believe how much content was in this thing. Like, there's the campaign, just the regular campaign, which was really good and had a great story. There was tons of revelations. There was fun boss fights. It actually felt like it could have been its own game. Like, it was really good. And then the area, the new explorable area, is the Witch Queen's throne world, which is like how do I even explain this? It's like a space that she created in her mind that you go into, and it
Ooh.
has enemies and stuff, and so it's like this giant hive castle area and then a buggy marsh outside of it. And it's really, there's like three big distinct areas. There's tons to explore, and there's hidden secrets everywhere, and it's got its own set of missions and side missions, and you find these secrets that lead to more missions. I just couldn't believe it. Like, as I was doing the campaign, I was like, I actually got to take a break and do some of this side stuff. It introduced weapon crafting, so you could, instead of just having weapons with designed traits, you could pick whatever traits you wanted and level up your gun and unlock new traits. It just added so much content, and I was obsessed and played it endlessly for 3 or 4 months. It was just great. I don't have really much negative to say about it at all. But that was actually where I was going to end, unless you had any questions about Destiny 2, The Witch Queen.
No, you've answered all of them just fine.
Okay.
over the past 2 months.
Yeah. So that's halfway through our list, so we should probably take an ad break, yeah?
Do it. You had better start this because I'm gonna go right for crabs.
Okay. So we this sponsorship is a little different. It's a little special episode, so we got a little different. I'm actually fully invested in this company. It is the 50% Swedish store. Just like me, everything
Ooh.
is 50% Swedish. You can buy burritos, but the other half of it is lefse. You got recliners, but half of it is IKEA, so you got to put the rest of it together.
The pickled herring, but half of it is the Swedish fish candy.
Yes, which I actually hate. I hate Swedish fish candy. But
Oh my god.
it's good here. You should spend your time in the 50% Swedish store. Every employee is half Zlatan Ibrahimovic, famed Swedish football player.
I can't.
The crabs, Aaron.
Yeah, crabs. They're half Swedish too. Their last name is Hjondur Krug, and they all have little curly cues on their little mutton chops and everything like that. They really love to yell everything in Swedish.
Inga dinga durgan.
Yep, that before they snippity snip, yeah, hingy dingy durgan.
Open every day of the week every day of the year except Leif Erikson Day.
Oh, I can't think of anything else. Meatball subs, half are like regular marinara and shit. The other half is Swedish meatballs.
You just got to trust that it's half Swedish. So thank you, 50% Swedish store. It's Tommy approved because I'm also 50% Swedish.
Wait, and we're back.
Yes, we're back with our top 5 games of the year, technically.
Speaking of half Swedish, let's talk about Loop Hero.
Ooh, I love Loop Hero.
This is the one that came out. It was in December actually of 2021, and I like almost everything about it. I like maybe 92% of it. There's just a few small things I hate about it. Yeah. Really, basically, for those that haven't played it, the whole world has basically just been erased. You as the hero, you basically just go out into the world on this like endless loop, and you go through and kill shit, get loot, get materials, bring those materials back to your camp, build new shit, unlock new cards, slap those cards on the map, like forests increase your attack speed, deserts decrease how much health your enemies have, mountains give you more max HP, a whole bunch of other cool passive shit, and you basically just beef up your character as you go through, and eventually like you'll fill up your boss meter and fight a boss, and the bosses are actually super sweet. Like they're all pretty unique. The first one is the Lich, where like when he spawns, he'll spawn a shit ton of palaces, and for each palace that he has, he'll have an extra 5% HP. So if you leave them all there, he has an extra 50% HP.
Ooh.
And then the next one is I think her name's like the Watcher, and she spawns these little stained glass windows that'll take a hit for her basically. And then there's the Hunter. I forget what he does, but he's really cool. I'm on the last boss and I can't beat it. It's tough. You basically have to like boss rush through the first 3 and then get to him.
Of course.
It's all awesome. It's great. The only one thing that I don't like is that runs start off pretty damn slow. Like they're kind of a slog. Like once you start a new run, it's kind of a slog, but it'll pick up, and then you'll start to get in the groove of things, and you'll be whooping ass and equipping new books and new rings and some sweet chains, hot ice. That's Loop Hero, everybody. It's great.
Loop Hero is definitely one of the most unique ideas for a game I've ever heard, because you talk about fighting things, but you don't actually do any of that. Your little guy just goes around and fights things on his own. You just set up the track for him and build the land around him, and that is extremely satisfying just to see that land grow and just seeing the map at the end. Chef's kiss.
And and you watch his like stats in, because you have that one little box that has all of his stats in there, and oh god, and then when you get like a new weapon or armor that's like an exact upgrade over the one you have, and you just feel like a complete god. It's oh man, it's so good.
Yep. I am very surprised. I looked it up and it's still not on anything besides PC and Switch, which is very surprising to me. That's like a Game Pass game if I've ever seen one.
I know. Maybe it's got to be coming out soon, because I know Hades was Switch and PC only at launch, and then eventually, I think maybe 2021 was when it came out to Xbox. I think because it was on Game Pass for a while. I think.
Yeah.
So it's got to be coming. Everybody, hold your breath. It's coming.
They have to. What else are they doing? Yeah. I just, before I get to my top 5, I want to say that like these top 5 games for me all could have been number 1 for different reasons. Like, these 5 games are my babies. Like, I love all of these games so much, and it was really difficult to rank them. So take that. I agree, like, absolutely that they should go where they go, but they're very close. So
yeah,
Go on.
I was sorry. I was gonna say my top five weren't really in any order either. I know I had my the first two were for sure my absolute favorites of the year, but yeah, Loop
Yeah.
Hero was a it was tough to pick between that and Amori, but
Yeah.
go on.
Speaking of games where you can end up feeling like a god, my number five is Vampire Survivors.
Oh yeah.
it's
There we go.
it's really good. It actually surprisingly, I played it for a bit when it was on PC Game Pass, and I was like, okay, I get it. You move around, kill things, and you upgrade your stuff, and that's it. And then I kind of just moved on from it, and then it came to Xbox Game Pass, and I played it, and I got hooked. I accidentally stayed up till 3:45 in the morning on a weeknight, which is unreasonable. I haven't done that since college, and it's I don't know the last time I've had a game like that where I just lose complete track of time, and I'm just like just one more run. I unlock something, I gotta see what it is. I can't just go to sleep without seeing what it is, and it's just such a well designed game for what it is. Like it's like the early or the late 2000s internet games kept evolving. It's got that style of you're doing things and you're unlocking things to make your stuff better. Like that's what all internet games were. Like
Yep.
Burrito Bison is the first one that comes to mind for me. I played so much Burrito Bison, but it's just like doing a run and then spending your money to make yourself better. And this does it so well. The weapons are so fun to use and how they combo and what I didn't understand when I first played it on PC Game Pass was the game is so much deeper than what it appears to be.
Oh my god, yeah.
It is you unlock it's so many different like I don't even know how to describe it because it's not like new modes or new abilities like
Like
you
new mechanics.
yeah it's just it changes so much and changes how you go into even playing the game and it's just amazing that they were able to do that and the DLC dropped today and we are recording this podcast instead of playing it which is horrible.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
god, I'm gonna buy it right now.
it's number 5 on my list because even though it is the most video game of the year and it is the most fun I've had this year, I that's kind of all it does. It's just that pure adrenaline run fun, and it doesn't really do much else besides that fun. So if you're looking for fun, there's nothing else that will top it. But at the same time, that's all it does.
Weird enough, Vampire Survivors was my number two because I was just for the longest time I was in this big game fatigue. Like I had no idea what the hell I wanted to play ever. I would
Mm.
just kind of go from game to game, and it's so cheap. Like you're doing yourself a
Yeah,
huge
that's
disservice
right.
not buying it. You might as well go fucking buy it.
It's
It's
five
only
bucks.
every run you always feel so rewarded because
Mm-hmm.
you're always unlocking something. You know whether it's you're unlocking a new Arcana or a new character, or you just get like just a bunch of money. Gosh, and the different characters are really cool because like the first few you unlock are kind of basic. It's like, hey, you gain more power every one level, or like you have temporarily more cooldown or something like that. But then they get
Mm-hmm.
really sweet. Like there's that group of people that was it they gain more projectiles every level, but they have different goofy weapons like that mine cart and the bone
Oh
and
my
shit like
gosh, I
that.
love the mine cards.
And what is it called? The merchant. I went through a lot of the game without ever figuring out that you could unlock
Same.
the merchant.
The big game changer for me was unlocking the grimoire. I want to say it is where you can see the weapon evolutions. Because like
Yes.
up to that point, you're just collecting weapons, leveling them up, making it as far as you can, dying to the skeleton army 12 minutes in, and then you collect this grimoire, and it's just this thing that says weapon plus blank equals blank, and you're like, what? And then you probably accidentally unlock a weapon evolution, and you're just like, no. They they just they did such an expert job of spreading out all these things because they could have totally thrown everything at you at once and been like, here's weapon evolutions, here's whatever the cards are, here's the shop. But no, they spread it out and let you discover it yourself and let you figure it out, and it's just so great. And one last thing I'll say that like shows that they understand their game better than anyone else is how when you unlock enough levels, you unlock hyper mode, I think it is, where the
Yep.
time goes at double the speed, but your experience in gold goes double as well. So they're kind of like, you've earned it. You made it to the end of every stage. You don't we don't want you to waste your time 30-minute runs every time because you're powerful enough. So let's make it quicker for you. That's such a nice thing.
Oh, here's one for you. Did you know that a successful run is considered when you survive for 31 minutes and you kill death?
Yes, I haven't quite done that yet. I've survived for 31 minutes, but I haven't killed death.
Uh, or wait, no, I forget if you do have to kill death or not. I know it does. Successful run is to make it to the 31 minute
Yep,
mark, but
there's achievements for 31 minutes for sure.
okay. I don't know if I've gotten to 31 minutes, but
I accidentally did once.
oh, it's just so cool. And I like, oh my God, one of my favorite things about like any roguelike is synergies where basically weapons combine with other
Mhm.
weapons to make sweet shit. Dude, the pentagram with the attract orb, I think, where it starts going like boing,
Oh yeah, yeah.
boing, boing, boing,
Oh my
boing,
gosh, that's
boing,
so
boing, boing,
good. That
boing,
build
boing,
up.
boing, boing, and then you're sucking all these gems and you get like 16 fucking levels and then you go and fully upgrade another weapon like the what is it? The fire wand with whatever the fuck, and then just makes this fucking
Meteors
comet fly
flying.
across the
Ugh.
screen. Fucking
It
huge
just gets out of
meatball
hand, and it gets out of hand in the best way. I love
yep.
garlic. I will always pick
Oh
garlic,
yes.
and you level that up, and it like sucks health out of the enemies, and so you just got this giant wall of protection around you. You're just running into these armies like ah ha ha
That's me with the Bible maxed out. It doesn't
Bibles.
stop spinning. It's always
I know,
spinning, and
it's so
there's like
and when you increase
there's
the
no gaps in it.
speed, it's just going. Oh my gosh, so good.
That game is that's absolutely my. That was a tough number two, but joke intended. But yeah, it was number two for me.
So where do we go from here? Because you did your number 5. I did my Did you do your number 5?
Yeah, Loop Hero is my five.
Yes, Loop Hero. But then we also did your number 2. So do I go to number 4 or do we do your number 4?
You can just do yours. It's fine.
Okay. My number 4 game of the year is Marvel Snap.
Mm-hmm.
I am obsessed with Marvel Snap. It is the best card game I played since Legends of Runeterra, even though they are nothing alike. Um, it's made by, I don't know if you knew this. It's made by the guy who made Hearthstone.
Oh, really?
Same dude. Yep. And you can just tell that he understands card games because it's like everything that I love about card games, but condensed and distilled. Like when I first read about they're making a Marvel card game, and I was like, okay, sure. And I read
It's
about
just
it, and
gonna
they're
be
like,
Puzzle Quest all over again.
yeah, they're like, you only have 12 cards in your deck, and there's only 6 turns, and you both take your turns at the same time. And I'm like, that sounds stupid. That's stupid, but it works. It works so good. I can't believe it. Like, you can actually have synergies and deck archetypes, as Aaron likes
Okay.
to say. I've built so many different decks based on different mechanics, and the games are so quick. They take like less than 5 minutes, and you still get to do your whole building up your strategy and trying to win with whatever that specific strategy is. My favorite deck is a discard deck. I've got like as you're unlocking cards, there are some that are like when you play this card, discard another card from your hand. And I'm like, why the hell would you do that? You only have 12 cards in your deck. Why would you want to discard any? And then I got Apocalypse, I believe his name is, who has the ability whenever you discard him, put him back in your hand with +4 power. And
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
oh, okay. And then I got Swarm, which is whenever you discard this card, put 2 copies in your hand that cost 0. And you can keep discarding them
Oh
and
my
getting
God.
a swarm of them. And it's just so well thought out. And there are 3 lanes, and each lane has a different location. One flips over on turn 1, one on turn 2, one on turn 3. It's totally random what they are, and they have different abilities that like completely change how you play. There'll be some that are like the highest card here gains +5 power, or after turn 4 every card here gets smushed into one card, or there's even some that are like you can't play cards here. And just having that variety makes every single game feel fresh, and it uses that part of my brain that strategizes. Like with my discard deck, I'm like, okay, I need to avoid that lane, so I need to play things here. And then it's just, if you love card games, like Marvel Snap is wonderful. It's just so good. The only negative I have is they are absolutely insane with how much they want you to pay for their special cards. The most recent one that came out is $50 for 2 cards.
Ooh.
50 American dollars.
Do they do anything differently?
No, it's different skins for 2 cards.
No, thank you.
Like they had one. They started off with the first one that's always in the shop is $7 for 1 card, and then they had one that was like $20, and then $30, and now they're up to $50, and it's like, oh, stop. I understand they need to make money, but I'm giving them $10 every month for their battle pass.
I like that it's super duper like deceptively simple. Like you think to yourself at first, it's like, oh, you just put cards here and then that's it. But you can really, if how the fuck do I explain it? It's, man, it's really easy to think ahead of your opponent, kind of like you
Yes.
kind of think ahead of your turns, because you'll be thinking, so they've got one guy on points 1 and points 2, and they own those ones right now. There's maybe like nobody on the third point. You'll be thinking like, ooh, maybe I could put a guy on the third point, or capture that one, or maybe I should take over the first or second. And there's so many sweet strategies, and they're just so, oh, what was that word? Cerebral. I like to use that word a lot.
Yes.
It's very, like, it uses a lot of your brain juices to kind of think around your opponent and throw them off. And yeah.
And the best part is they introduce a new location every week, I want to say, and they're putting new cards in every week as well. Like,
Ooh.
they're pretty good on new content. It's not just set cards and set locations. And another thing I love that they do is they every week for 2 or 3 days they have a different I don't remember what they call it. It's like a special location that appears in 40% of games, and it kind of forces you to, in a good way, it forces you to experiment with different decks. Like there was one where it was like, when you play a card here, put 3 copies of it on this spot. So you're essentially playing 1 card and getting 4 copies, and you can just like put the Hulk on there and just get a ton of points. Or you can read people's comments on Reddit and be like, if you actually put Nightcrawler there, it creates 4 of them, but then you can move them all away because that's his ability, so you can move him once, and then you can put different cards on there. They really do a good job of helping you experiment with different types of different strategies.
That's really, really cool. Speaking of cool games that make you play them and you think,
Yes.
Steam World Dig 2. That's my number 4. Just your usual Metroidvania kind of thing, but there's a lot of digging, as the name might suggest. To go to a different place underground, you'll like tunnel your way there. Along the way, you'll collect gems and shit like that, and use that money to buy upgrades for stuff that you have. But you can also find different blueprints for different upgrades as well too, and you'll, in Metroidvania fashion, you'll beat bosses and get new abilities. Like you get like a grappling hook or a fucking drill. The best one is just this jetpack, so you can fly all over the place. But oh my gosh, it's so good because it's just the most satisfying loop of going along and getting just shit tons of gems and other cool items and picking shit up, and then of course your inventory will be full, so you'll have to go back to town, turn all that shit in, upgrade, buy some other shit, go back down into the pit, and then you can either just explore and find health upgrades, or just advance the story, going to wherever the hell. But I don't think there's anything I didn't like about it. It's just so good.
Do you actually like dig tunnels to decide where to go, or is it more like traditional Metroid where it's tunnels and you're exploring those tunnels?
No, you have to actually like dig the tunnels,
that's
basically.
like Terraria style.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. That was like my favorite part of Terraria, was digging and then seeing your giant tunnels. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that's how it worked.
Yeah, dude. And then There's just all sorts of really sweet, and you can then there's just tons of different upgrades that you can equip that completely change how you play. Because there's all sorts of different ways you can build your person. You can have like, hey, like I prefer to use the drill, so because the drill digs super duper fast, so I would just drill all the way down really fast, and I'd have just shit tons of steam upgrade. There's just, oh my god, and the music is so good. The main theme from when you're in town, El Machino, it's so sweet. Just bam, 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 and then the bosses are awesome. I cannot think of a bad thing about it. It's my favorite Metroidvania, honestly, from my one of
Ooh.
my favorite series.
Speaking of games that are a genre different, that they're a new take on an old genre. Speaking of games, they're a new take on an old genre. Tinykin
Perfect.
is my number 3 pick. And
I I'm
before
surprised that wasn't your one.
I just wanted to say before I specify my top 3 games, like extra, each of them could have been number 1. I loved Tinykin so much. Like after I finished playing it, I was like, this is nothing's gonna top this. This is number 1. There's no way. Um, what I love about Tinykin is it is the first game I played in a while that like made me feel like a kid again. Like it just gave me such a warm, homey feeling. Like I was sitting in the living room playing my GameCube or something.
Ooh.
It nails that feeling. It's a game where you run around a house. You're a tiny person, big house, and you collect these little tinykin, and you take them around with you to help you do things. And that's all you do is you just explore. You find pollen, you find tinykin, you find ship parts, and it's just such a joy to explore the world. To like you just see what you can find, and you go there, and it's just I've never played a Pikmin, and I feel like I wouldn't like Pikmin as much because of how good Tinykin was and the impact it had on me. I just never felt any. There's no combat. It's just exploring and collecting things, and it's nothing but good vibes, man. The the only real negatives I have, and the things that made me push it out of number 1, are the story is bad. It's almost non-existent, and what is there is bad. Like there's a bit at the beginning and a bit at the end, and it's just not. It's almost like it was from a different game. And there are the last 2 Tinykin you collect just don't fit the vibe like the other ones do. They're just not as versatile. Like you pick them and use them at specific places, and so it doesn't feel as good. But I just Tinykin took me back to a place where games just haven't been for a while, because like games now are battle passes, live service, paying money for skins, and Tinykin is just a game that you play and you go and explore, and it's the game that they don't make anymore. You know, man. You know.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I know that.
it's
I
so
know it.
good. It's just I love everything about it. The devs seem super cool. They like our stuff on Twitter.
Speaking of video games that you have to play, Shining Force 2, I played a shit ton of. I don't know if you ever played one of those
What
before.
is it?
Shining Force 2, Tommy,
Mm-hmm.
it's a strategy RPG. Well, I guess the whole series is strategy RPG series made by Sega. The first 2 were on the Genesis,
Ah.
and for a Genesis strategy RPG, I was expecting it to be just kind of bleh, like it's just there and they made it. There's a lot of depth to it, and it's really really cool. And so Fire Emblem, you just have your guys. There'll be a story segment. You'll talk about bullshit, and you'll bullshit with dudes about other bullshit. You'll romance some guys, and then you fight stuff, and then you just repeat that cycle. But Shining Force or it's so different because you'll actually explore the world. You go to towns, talk
Mm.
to NPCs, and then it basically feels like an adventure plus strategy RPG combat, and it's really sweet. And your units, oh man, the classes are super cool because a lot of the times I feel like in Fire Emblem characters just don't feel very unique, but in Shining Force they all do really feel unique because for one, there's definitely not as many characters as you would get in Fire Emblem, so you don't have like maybe three people of the same class. In Shining Force, you have at least like one person of each class, and then there's like secret characters that there's secret hidden characters that you can find that have their own sweet ass like unique classes and everything. And sure, you'll get a couple characters who reuse the same class, like a knight, because they're centaurs, and but yeah, you can eventually um, rank them up to a new class, and those new classes are just depending on when you because you're first eligible to rank them up to a new class at when they're level 20, kind of like with Pokemon and other games. If you wait until they're a little bit higher level, like say like 30 or 40, and then you promote them to a new class, their base stats will be a lot higher, so they won't be as babyish when you promote them to a new class. It's so awesome. It's definitely not what I was expecting from a Genesis RPG. There were quite a few people on our Twitter that they were playing the game around the time before I started playing it and I got hooked. It's fun. It's a game that was made to play and have fun, kind of like Tinykin.
Yeah, and this was your first time playing it, even though it came out many, many, many years ago.
Oh yeah, I expected to be like Fire Emblem or any other strategy RPG, but it's definitely a lot different. It's great.
I think that definitely says a lot because some of those old games can be very hard to play in the modern age, like Castlevania 2.
Oh
For
my God,
example.
yeah. Very, very janky, very mm, what's the word? Uh, broken.
Archaic. Yeah, broken.
Archaic. There we
Broken's a good
go.
one, man. We don't have to get
Yep.
into it, but just the fact that like some Pokemon moves in red and blue were like completely broken. That's probably a topic for another podcast episode.
Wink.
uh, Speaking of things that are very, very old, my number 2 pick for Game of the Year is Pentiment.
Oh,
This could easily be number 1. Pentiment is the most unique game I've played in a while. How many times have you been playing Gears of War and you're like, I just wish I could play a game where I'm in a village in 1500s Bavaria where I have to solve a murder mystery? And if that's you, then you need to check out Pentiment because that's what it is. And the art style is like literally nothing else. It's done in the style of 1500s wood carvings and manuscripts. It looks like you're just running around a manuscript, and
that's cool.
it's surprisingly deep because when you look at the game, you just take your character left and right across the screen, and you talk to people, and you make choices, and you think that that's it. Like it almost looks like it could be a visual novel with moving, but it is a full-fledged RPG. Like role playing, emphasis on the role playing. You pick your background for your character, like what you studied in college, where you went to, like where you lived, what you like doing, and that influences the things you can say throughout the game. And it like heavily influences, like it straight up cuts off sections that you can find. Like I found a book and I was like, this is in French, I can't read French. And it turns out that like if you could read French, you can unlock further dialogue options. And man, the game has so many themes that you just don't see other games do. Like it's very heavy on the religion and how religion impacts people's lives and how people can use religion to kind of overpower people, I guess, and what role religion should play in people's lives. It's got a very heavy emphasis on history. That was the one that stuck with me the most, and how you view history and how history is remembered. I'm going to go in, I'm just going to say this now, I'm doing heavy spoilers for Pentiment. There's almost no way to talk about it without doing heavy spoilers, so if you haven't played Pentiment yet, turn off the podcast. But in Act 1, you start is an artist named Andres Mailer. Act 2 is 7 years later. Act 3 is 18 years later. So 25 years from the beginning of the game. And in Act 3, you're tasked with creating a mural that records the history of the village that you're in, from when it was first discovered to their present day. And so you have to go around talking to people and asking them what they remember as the history of the town. And you get all sorts of different things because everyone has a different. They were told different things. Like it's not like anyone's wrong. They were just told different things as they were growing up, and you have to pick which past to represent on the mural. And I picked the past that were true. Like I found books that said this is when people discovered it, and here's what was here, and then like this is what happened next. So I picked those specific things. And then at the very end of the game, you go underneath the town to these Roman ruins, which is the Romans discovered the city before the Christians, the Christians that now inhabit it did. And so you learn that everything that you thought was a fact, everything that you thought was the truth, wasn't actually true, because the people who are currently in the village, the Christians, don't want people to know the past. So they like make it appear like they looking good to them, obviously. And so everything I had put on the mural that I was like, well, I'm going to just represent the truth, wasn't the truth at all. And now everyone's going to believe that that's what happened. And that's a huge thing with the game, is just how your choices will affect the future, how people are going to view the past. Like, you make so many small choices that you don't think are going to be important, but they impact people's lives in huge ways. Like, I told a story to a girl when she was little that was like super fantastical. I was like, there was fairies, and you can pick what kind of story you tell her. And I was like, there was fairies and a prince and all this stuff. And so you see, as she gets older, she like gets super into like fantasy stuff, like witches. And as she gets even older, she's like getting into witchcraft. And then you get to see that she gets burned at the stake because she got too into witchcraft. And it's because it's because you told her that story when she was younger. And there are so many things that the game does with that, where you just make these choices and it affects everything into the future. And it's crazy because like you're not the main character in this game. You are just a visitor to this village. And so like you're not there to change the world or everything. You're just a bypasser who happens to change these people's lives. And I think it's just so powerful, and it's just so, it made me think about so many things, and there's just nothing else I've ever experienced like it. Oh man, what a great game. The only downside I can say is that there are some very slow parts. The beginning of the game is very slow. The beginning of chapter 3 is very slow. It can be I almost dropped it in act 3 because it was a slog, but it is absolutely worth it. I haven't even gotten to like the murder mystery part, which is what they pitched the game on. It's so dense, so insanely dense, and all you do is move left and right and talk to people.
So is the murder mystery actually a big part of it? Is that...
Yes, that is the main plot in Acts 1 and 2, is someone has been murdered, and you have to go around talking to people to figure out who did it. And by the end of the game, you're still not sure. That's another big thing in like the you impacting history, is like you accuse someone that you think did it, and you never know if it's true or not, but it's going to affect history regardless. Like everyone's going to be like, okay, that's who did it, and it changes your relationships with people. It changes how the people view other people. There's like 50 plus characters in this game. It's just insane how deep how dense it is.
And it was released by Obsidian, right?
Yeah, Obsidian made it. Like Josh Sawyer said it was his dream game. After the credits, there's a bibliography with like 15 different books from that era that they read to give them knowledge about how to best represent the 1500s world. It's just this game doesn't get made without Game Pass. There's no way that Obsidian would give their developers time and resources to make it.
It's really unique too. Like other games I feel like that are coming out are just like it's another battle royale shooter, or it's another Metroidvania or something. But then this one, it's just like it's a side-scrolling Bavarian cream-filled murder mystery.
Actually, a full-on RPG with backgrounds and choices. We are up to our number 1 picks, but before that, we're going to do some honorable mentions because we actually did play more than 10 games this year. And at least for me, I have 5 games that I liked, but for whatever reason, they weren't in my top 10. I don't want to spend too much time on them because they don't deserve it. So you go first, Aaron, because I dried my mouth out on Pentiment.
But yeah, one of mine was Shovel Knight Dig. It's great. It's cool that Shovel Knight has his own roguelike now. It's great, but sometimes it's just really fucking unfair. So fuck it.
MLB The Show 22 finally came to Xbox this year. Man, is it not fun to play? They just completely went overboard on systems and mechanics for upgrading your player, and it is just not fun to have to purchase equipment with in-game money to boost your stats. I just want to play and get better by playing.
Oh, that does sound gross. Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Ooh.
It's mostly a good game. I like that it marries a lot of what made Xenoblade 1 and 2 good. But I cannot stand the job system. It is pointless. They could have just kept everybody the same jobs that they start as, and the game would have been just fine. Let them learn more skills, a la any other fucking Xenoblade game. It would have been just fine. Sometimes the pacing is also an absolute slog, too. There's a lot of... Sometimes I just get too sidetracked with side quests because there's just 80 fucking million of them, and I just get really burnt out. But Xenoblade 3...
Another one for me is As Dusk Falls. It's like the old Telltale games where you just make decisions and that's it. You don't control anyone. And it did a lot that I really liked. It's actually a multiplayer one of those. So you and whoever you're playing with vote on what choices to make. But the story was kind of meh. And if there were opportunities where you could not make a choice, and that was an option, but there were some times where you would not make a choice and the game would pick for you. And that was not cool.
Very not cool. My next one is Biomotor Unitron.
What the hell?
And this, this one was a Neo Geo Pocket Color game that got ported to Switch just this year, 2022. And it's cool because it's basically like Pokemon but robots.
Oh.
And you can customize robots with different little parts, like different arms and legs and shit like that, and it's really cool. And you'll go through dungeons and fight monsters and level up your robot and then take them to a tournament, and then basically Pokemon but robots. But sometimes the music is real beepy and boopy, and it fucking hurts my ears because I'm a big baby. And sometimes going through dungeons can be a huge slog because random encounters, holy fuck, you can't even, sometimes you'll take 2 steps, get an encounter, to finish that, take 2 steps, get another encounter, and it's a big pain in the ass.
It's Diglett Cave.
Yep, Zubats.
Another one for me was Deathloop. I played Deathloop this year, even though it came out a year or two ago. I loved it. It's a time loop game, a roguelike game, and it's got really good mechanics. It's another one of those games that's really well thought out. They took the time loop genre and bent it to their will. I just didn't play it enough. I got into other games and stopped playing Deathloop pretty early on. I just started like getting to where I could lock equipment for future use, and I'm sure if I would have played the whole thing, it would have made my top 10, but I just didn't have enough time for it this year.
You'll never see my next one coming, Tommy. It's Grapple Dog.
Oh, I didn't even know you played Grapple Dog.
I did. I played a good bunch of it, and it's cool because it's like if a platformer were all about just grappling all over the place, because you basically you'll move faster if you grapple around instead of just walking. And there's all sorts of cool hidden collectibles, and there's cool hidden stages, and unfortunately I kind of stopped playing it because other stuff came out. I think it was Amori came out around that time that came out, and it just forgot about it.
Yep. That's definitely a theme with some of these for me. My next one, I'm sorry, Aaron. Persona 5 Royal.
That's okay. I did the same thing for Persona. I've never finished a Persona game because they're so long, and sometimes I just don't want to talk. Sometimes I just want to whoop ass and move on.
And I'm the opposite. I love the talking. I love the voice acting, the story, but I just, man, I wasn't feeling the combat, and I got about 12 to 15 hours in, and a lot of people said that's when the game starts, but it's just too much of building upon itself. Like, I understand that it's introducing its mechanics slowly, but it's just too slowly for me. And I just dropped. I just one day I was like, I don't feel like playing today. I'm gonna play something else, and I just never went back to it. But I
Yep,
liked it.
I
I
did the
liked a lot of
same.
it. I really enjoyed the story of the gym teacher. I finished that whole arc, and I just kind of felt content.
My number one honorable mention was Castlevania Symphony of the Night, because
Ah.
I forgot that I owned it on Xbox One, and when you unlock the inverted castle, which you do by beating the game with all the when you know all the familiars or something stupid, but the inverted castle is just so fucking difficult. There's a lot of parts where you'll have to go up the screen, but you'll have to jump up platforms to get to the top of whatever place you're in. But then there's all sorts of these, kind of like Castlevania 2. There's enemies floating all over the place, and of course if you get hit, they'll bop you back,
Hmm.
and then of course you'll fall back to the very bottom of the goddamn thing, and you have to climb all the way back up. But then, oh, what's that? Your fucking stupid ass got hit by another one. You're falling down, and guess what? Half your health is gone. What are you gonna do now, bitch? There was just a lot of those, and then yeah, then other games came out, and I forgot about it.
My number one honorable mention is Pokemon Violet. The first few hours of Pokemon Violet, I was in love. I was I adored the open world and just I loved the Pokemon models. The rest of the game looks like garbage and runs like garbage, but I didn't care. I still don't care, honestly. I love the models. I love being able to run around and seeing the Pokemon everywhere. And as I've played, I have fallen out of love with it. Is the best way that I can put it. I'm still playing through it. I
Mm.
just am not gaining any joy from playing it, but I have to keep playing it. I don't enjoy exploring anymore. I like it's just once you catch the six Pokemon in an area, that's the six Pokemon you're gonna see for the next 5 miles, buddy, and and you can. It's just so open. I think the areas are too big, and the frickin' map, like the there's no option to make the map not rotate. I don't know where the hell I am. I don't know where the hell everything else is because the map rotates. So I'm trying to if I could just plot a course from here to there, I could, but the map rotates and you rotate and I just don't know where the hell I am, where the hell I'm going. I asked the Pokemon Center lady where to go and she was like, "Oh, go to this thing. It's right nearby." And I go over a bridge and there's level 50 Pokemon. I'm like, that bitch lied to me. Why did she say I should go here next? But I'm gonna keep playing until I get everything.
I I'm surprised I didn't put that in my honorable mentions either. It's not my game of the year either, because what is I'm gonna kind of almost add this to my honorable mentions.
You can. This is our podcast.
That's yeah, we run this bitch. But yeah, I beat the Elite Four,
Oh
and
damn.
I just yeah I this could just like I liked it quite a bit. I will agree that the areas are huge. There's a lot of exploring, but you don't really get rewarded for a lot of it. Like sometimes you'll find a TM,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's a cool TM, like it'll be overheat or flamethrower, but then it's just like, nope, here's fucking tail whip. Here's baby doll eyes that doesn't do a goddamn thing. But like
Here's
it's
throat chop.
for the four sound-based moves out of the fucking 600 different moves. I love that it's open world. I feel like that is the next logical step for
Yes,
Pokemon to
yes,
take.
yes.
It should be open
It's
world, but
wonderful.
I hate that the towns all look the same though. I really hate that. All the towns, because they all have their own little like biome or like their own like little like gym leader, that kind of spice, like build it around the gym leader or like what their type is. Even in like the little winter town up in the mountains, it's the exact same town, kind of. It looks the exact same as the other towns that are like on the ground and shit. I hate that. Like,
You
give each
can't.
town its own specific flavor,
The
bitch.
towns are fucking huge, and you can't go into the buildings. What the hell is up with that?
That's true. Yeah, you can't go into every building anymore. That
I don't
sucks.
even talk
It's
to people
dumb.
because there's no point in talking to them.
Yep,
Like
yep,
doesn't
yep.
even feel like a town anymore. Like all the towns felt. Vermilion City is under construction. You can talk to people about construction. There's a guy who runs the Pokemon Club, and he'll tell you about his Rapidash. It doesn't have any of that. That was in the 90s. That was in the 90s. We gotta save this for
Yep.
a later episode, though. I'm
Yeah,
getting
we do.
heated.
Yes, it's basically a game of the year. I'm going with the Dicey Dungeons.
Oh.
Reunion
Mhm.
expansion
Mhm.
because it's basically a whole other fucking game, and it's great. Well, yeah, it's great because it adds just a ton of different new weapon or not weapon, yeah, I guess weapons and stuff like that. But it completely reworks how each of the characters work. Oh, what is it? The robot, instead of using, what was it, the error meter thing? You roll a dice. Instead, you use coins, different numbers of coins for different attacks, or you have to like flip the coin to do something. I forget exactly how it goes. The witch is entirely, it's all puzzles, Tommy. It's all one big puzzle
Ooh.
you have to solve. You have to use all of your dice for different equipment to finish off the enemy and use up all of your equipment, and it's great. It's just a little puzzle. The whole round with the witch is just a little puzzle. And the warrior is, after, it's either after a battle or when you level up, you can do a different workout, and you'll add that card
Nice.
to your build, and then it'll do different things like do some damage and shit like that. It's so great, and I have it on Steam, and it's perfect because I can just use my one hand, just my mouse hand, to play the whole game, and the other hand I'll just fucking be on my fucking phone or pick my nose or eat a fucking
Just constantly
taco.
picking
But
nose.
dude,
One thing I like
oh
about Dicey Dungeons, which isn't a big deal at all, but it is so snappy. There's no loading in
yep,
that game at all. It's just menu, option, go. Game's over, back to the menu. Like there's no it's I don't it like I don't you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. It's
Okay.
just once you get into, you start the game and you're in the game,
Yeah.
and then you pick a character, you're right into the dungeon, and then you find an enemy, battle starts, and then like there's no loading screens really. Yeah, it's awesome. And then there's a whole new soundtrack for the expansion as well too, and it's great.
Excellent. Well deserving. Well deserving of your number one game.
It counts. It's basically a whole new game. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely counts. My number one game of 2022 is Tunic. Love
Oh my
Tunic.
god, yes.
So Tunic is so when I was looking, you remember I had said like I have these 5 games that I could all see reasons for them being number one. Tunic I picked as my number one game because I feel like it was a game that was custom made for me. It feels like a game that like when we're younger and we're trying new genres and trying new things and it like opens up a part of our brain and we're like I'm gonna love this forever. That's what Tunic was for me as an older person now. I've described it to a friend as a mix between Legend of Zelda, Dark Souls, and Fez, but it is none of those things, but all of those things. And it's just it's got difficult combat and it's got difficult puzzles, and you as your little fox character are not a part of this world. No one speaks English. All of the signs are in a different language. The game tells you nothing. Like it just puts you in the world and lets you explore, and you have to figure everything out yourself. Scattered around the world are little pieces of a game manual that are in a different language. There are some parts that are English, a word here and there, but it does not tell you explicitly how to play the game, and it does that thing that I love where you can do everything in the game from when you start, but you have to figure it out and learn it yourself. And just having those revelations throughout the game of being like, if I hold A when I'm by this thing, I can do that, or when you hit this, it does that, and it did it, the ending. There are 2 options. There's the combat ending where you beat the boss, or there's the puzzle ending, which it has a boss puzzle, which is the most brilliant puzzle I've ever seen in a video game. And it's just it was a revelation for me. I just was enthralled in the world. I was enthralled in exploring and puzzle solving. I even got into the combat. Uh, there was absolutely a part that I hated, which was a boss rush area that I just turned on invincibility, and you can get lost very easily and not know where to go next. But when you do know where you're going, when you do know where you're exploring, it's just a masterpiece. Like I remember being done with it and just in my mind being like, that was a masterpiece.
I remember you explaining it to me as you went along in a little chat, and it is just, my the whole Oh man, it's not really a spoiler, but like the whole thing with the Golden Cross is
Yeah,
that's a
the Holy
big ol'
Cross.
wet kiss on the chef's face. Yes, the Holy Cross.
And I understand that the game isn't for everyone. I had a friend who played through the whole thing and kept like searching for the Holy Cross like in the game. He was like, I never found the Holy Cross, and you need the Holy Cross to beat the game, and he never figured it out. And by the time he was done, I told him, and he was like, I'm such an idiot. And I'm like, you kind of are, but that's one of the downsides is you can absolutely miss major things. Like it it's not like things are hidden from you. It's just you have to learn these things and figure them out.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's yeah. I played maybe like a couple of hours of it, and like yeah, it was good and I liked it. It was just yeah, there's a lot that the game
Yeah.
really hide. Well, then it's really subtle too. Like it's everything is there. Like it's right there. I
Hmm.
guess it's not there because you'd find the manual pages, but everything you need to know is in the manual, and it's
Yeah. So that's it. That's all the best games from 2022.
so yeah. Tell us what your favorite games of the year are, and yeah, you can do the same thing we did. You can do a mix of games from 2022 and older games if you want. We don't care.
Yeah,
We're not going to judge you.
absolutely. A good game played this year is a good game played this year, even if it didn't come out this year. Yeah, so that's that then. Our next episode, we're going to go back to our regularly scheduled programming and talk about some Pokemon. So look forward to that, listeners. Thank you for listening. We love you, and goodbye.
Yes. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter
Oh yeah,
and
that's right.
rate and review our episodes. I guess. Now, goodbye.
Yeah, give us 5 stars, uh, even if
Right.
you don't like us. 5 stars. Bye.
5-star goodbye.